My name's Neil McDougall. I run the UI team within Rancher. This is Alex Alves. He's one of the UI engineers on my team. Today we're going to talk you through Rancher UI extensions. I'll give you a tiny, well, let me go forward actually. I'll give you a tiny bit of an introduction, just a refresher if you've not heard of them or what they can do. But the bulk of the time, Alex is going to attempt, and he's going to do a live coding session, right? He's going to take you from nothing to having running extension. He'll talk about how you package it and publish it and develop and all that good stuff. Next steps, we've got some sort of pointers for you to take away, and then I'll just follow up with looking ahead where we're going, and there'll be time for questions at the end. So UI extensions, this is our kind of mission statement, right? What we're trying to do. So really, it says allow ourselves, users, developers, partners, and customers to be able to independently extend and enhance the Rancher Manager UI. So, when we break that down, what we're really about is trying to provide a mechanism where people can do rich integrations into the UI, right? If you've got a third-party tool or a service, we want you to better add to the UI, bring in data from those external tools into the right places within Rancher. Second point, and maybe the fourth point, kind of the same. We want people other than SUSE to be able to do this, right? We want people in the community, partners and customers, to be able to customize it for, maybe use cases specific to them. Or we want community people to be able to build extensions that might be useful to a broader community of people, right? We want to have independent release schedules. We don't want people to be tied to sort of Rancher releases. This was much of the motivation for us doing this in the first place. We use extensions for Harvester and products like that. We can decouple their release schedules, right? We can launch Rancher, and then at a later date we can update the Harvester extension or the Kubewarden extension. So that's one of the main motivations. Obviously, we want a common look and feel, but the main thing really is, as I said at the start, is trying to enable this kind of single pane of glass. I think I've heard that phrase 5, 6, 7 times during this SUSECon. But one place where people can go, they can get an overview of their pods, deployments, whatever it is in Rancher, but they can also then see information from Harvester, from Kubewarden, from Elemental, and then drill down and see the information where it makes sense. Just super quick, I won't spend too long on this one. This is really high level kind of architecture. I mentioned common look and feel, so we have a component library. The big bit in the middle called shell is really the core, right? So this is the piece where we've tried to sort of shrink down the Rancher UI. Around it, we've put this API that we're continuing to improve and build out. And then around that, we ourselves are sort of refactoring a lot of the UI functionality in Rancher as, these, I'll call them built-in extensions. We are then also developing these other extensions you see there, Harvester, Elemental, NewVector, for example, using the same APIs. They're published independently. And obviously, we want to be able to let you guys, others in the community, build your extensions using the same APIs that we ourselves use for UI. All right, I'm gonna whiz through this fairly quickly so we can get on to Alex. These are kind of summary of the various extension or classes of extension points that we've got. As I kind of said, the aim is to give you a kind of deeper integration into Rancher, right? And I'll show some of these in a sec. But you can reference this afterwards. These slides and the session will be recorded. Coming soon. Support for locales or language packs. We've kind of had that, but with 2.9 you'll be able to load extensions before the user's logged in, so that really unlocks being able to do localization packs. After that, probably in 2.10, we'll have the ability to do more branding through the UI extensions, right? So if you're a partner or a customer and you want to brand the UI more than you can do through the settings, you'll better do that. You'll better change the login page. So a lot of our customers I know do this kind of stuff, so you'll better do it through an extension. Just kind of, I won't talk to these in depth, but the way we let you kind of integrate or extend, you kind of go down a level of depth, right? So at the outermost level is this sort of notion of products, where you can add something to the app bar, that appears on the side, and then the whole real estate is yours, right? You can take over the main area, you can do whatever you want. That's obviously quite a coarse-grained integration, if you like, but it's good for bringing stuff in. You can go a level below. You can, within the sort of cluster explorer space, right? If I'm looking at a particular cluster, this is a great example with Kubewarden. I can add stuff to the side menu, and then I can start to put my views in for Kubewarden. Maybe a level below for a resource page, like with deployments shown here. I might have some sort of service which is scanning, say, for vulnerabilities, or it's doing some kind of compliance. Maybe it detects something and it wants to notify you. It could use a panel in the page to say, hey, there's a problem here, and maybe there's a link that takes you out to their tool or whatever, or maybe it takes you to another page where there's more detail. So, we're kind of getting more and more kind of deeply integrated into Rancher. So things like actions, right? Again, that compliance tool. Maybe I can manually scan, in this case, an app. So the menu you would get in Rancher, you can add your own action items there, as well as adding global action items. And then, perhaps that compliance tool for the detail view of a deployment, right? You see it says compliance on the side. Hopefully you can read that. Maybe that's a tab that it's added. You go into in this case, a deployment. You want to show some extra information. You can add tabs into Rancher so people can see information from maybe your service or tool. And I won't talk furthermore, but you can extend the tables, add new columns. There's even more you can do, and then you can do things like add cards on the home page. So again, if you want to surface some high-level information from your service or product, you can do that. Using this mechanism. So we've tried to provide what we think is a good first set of extension points, mostly driven by what we ourselves need, because we are trying to use the same APIs, but over time we're going to improve and enhance those. All right, hopefully I got through that quickly. I'll hand over to Alex, who is going to do a live coding demo.
Hi everyone. I hope you can hear me right. So welcome. I hope the demo gods are appeased today, because doing live coding isn't that easy. But yeah, let's jump back into it. So what I'm about to show you today, first thing is to show you how to generate the skeleton application. So it's basically a small version of the Rancher UI that you will need for then to develop your extension locally. I'm going to show you how to create or to generate your extension, so it creates the necessary files for you to start developing on. We'll cover a couple of extension examples, one more simple, one more advanced. Then I'll show you how to build your extension locally and do what we call a developer load. So you can test your build assets before you actually publish your extension to a Helm chart. And then in the end, we'll see the publishing procedure. We provide workflows that integrate with GitHub, for example, that allow you to have automation for your publishing, and then you just add the repository to Rancher Manager, and your extensions are included there. So let's jump into the code, okay? So I've got here a folder called test_suscon. Test_suscon is already connected to a Git repository. I have included a folder also called suscon material because for the timing of the demo, I don't have time to do the whole coding of the UI part, so I'm going to show you the important bits around extensions. Then I'm going to bring out some files that will really enhance the UI. So yeah. And I have here Rancher already running in a DigitalOcean droplet. Okay, so this is our remote address to access it. And yeah, here is a tab, of course, that will be our local environment. So how do we start with extensions? So the first thing is to create the boilerplate or the skeleton application. So you just run yarn create @rancher app. So this will create that small portion or includes the minimal Rancher UI version so that you can start developing your extensions on. Let me just grab a new package file, okay? Because this has some dependencies that will be later on used on one of the examples. You need to, I'm going just to run yarn install, so this takes a bit just to install the dependencies. But here on the other side, I'm going to start generating the boilerplates for the extensions themselves. So it's as easy as running yarn create @rancher package, and you give the name of the package. So that's the first argument. And then you have two other arguments, minus t and minus w. So what minus t does, so we've generated here the package folder. Minus t does is create the folder structure. Okay, if you want to, then you can leverage certain mechanisms that we already have in place in the Rancher UI that you get kind of for free. Minus w adds the workflows for GitHub. Here we are. So the chart themselves and catalog that can be used for air-gapped use cases. Okay. So the first one that I did that I'm going to show you an integration with KubeCost. Okay. So that's one, and the other one, it will be just a simple example of a localization extension. So you can add a language pack to the UI. So yep, both of them are done, right? Package, KubeCost. Okay, took a bit to update. Okay, both of them are here. They have their files added. Dependencies are installed. So let's run Rancher UI for the first time locally. So what do we do? So you need to run yarn dev, but you need to set the connection to your Rancher instance. Okay, so you need the backend to run also. So you just do API equals the address to your remote Rancher instance, yarn dev, and this will do the connection. So the first time that this runs, it takes a bit to build the assets for the first time. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I think we can move forward while this is running. So I think this is fine. So showing you here the environment. This is very simple. So we are running a preview of 2.9 basically right now, and I've created a DigitalOcean cluster just prepared for this. It has KubeCost already installed. So just run a couple of commands, you get KubeCost, because we will show the integration with KubeCost as an example. And what do I want to show you? So here the documentation, I think, is the place where you get all of the needed information. You have everything from getting started to each of the extension points that we have, the information about the publish procedure, more in-depth information about the integration that we have already with Rancher UI and all. And I'm going to select two extension points that I think are interesting for the demo. One is the cards. Okay, so the ability to add a card to the cluster dashboard view. So every time that you click on the cluster on your top level menu, you get into this page. And one thing that would be cool to show is the cost information about your cluster example. So you have here all of the information needed about the arguments that it accepts. So it's as easy as copying the example that you have, the code example. Now, let me just refresh this. Yes. So you can see the assets are built for the first time, ready, the environment is ready. You can access it on localhost 8005. So here is the address. So we are connected to our local instance of Rancher UI. So let me just log in. Oh God. Yeah. So here we are. So this is our local instance. This is where we'll see the information that we need, updating live. So we are going to work on the KubeCost example right now, and the index file is the file where you define most of the configuration. So to add a card, I've just copied what is the documentation. So it's a really good way of starting if you want to see how it works. It has accepted different parameters. So the first one is like the type, what do you want to add. The second argument is the restrictions or not that you want to impose. Maybe I just want to show this on namespaces or on clusters or everything. So there are extension points that are very flexible and can be shown throughout the whole UI. Others are more defined. So the cluster dashboard card is just for the clusters, and then is the configuration part. So everything that is the location related is exported from shell core type, so you just add it. You can see there is no longer an error. We don't want to bind it to anything in particular. We won't need any labels or label keys, but you will see in the example that we have that part already covered. I'm going to create a Vue component. So our framework, our Rancher UI is built on top of Vue.js. So let's render something. Components, and you just generate the file. Let's call it kubecost.vue. So this will be your Vue component. I have a shortcut to generate a Vue boilerplate, let's call it. So kubecost extension, just give it a name, and of course it wouldn't be a code demo without showing hello world. So this is just to cover something, just to render something so that you are sure that you will see the changes that you've made. So now it's time to import the component. So components, kubecost, and there you go. So simple as that. This has live reload. Now if we go to RKE2 SysCon cluster, here you can see your cluster card rendering hello world. You know it's working, okay? The second bit that we wanted to show was tabs, okay? It would be nice to show the cost of your cluster drilled down per namespace, okay? So what I'm going to add is a tab. Here is the code example. Just copy it over. Tab location also, again, is exported from shell core types. You just add it. Now this time, I want to bind it just for namespaces. So namespace, okay? There's a lot of stuff that isn't needed, so we won't need labels. We don't need header or tooltip kind of things. We are going just to give it a simple name, kubecost. So this name is the name of that will appear on the tab itself. And then I'm going to import the exact same component. So components, kubecost Vue, okay? Now we jump back to the UI, local instance. And if we go to projects and namespaces, let's go, for example, to the kubecost namespace. Here it is, the tab we've just added. And if you click on it, hello world. So it's as easy as that. So both extension points are connected. You are displaying some kind of information. Now, this is like a blank canvas. You can do whatever you want. You can render whatever you want. You can do the connections that you want to APIs or some other stuff and render the information on this little component that you've just added. So now this is where I'm going to cut some corners a bit for the sake of time. Okay. So I already have quite a few files here that I'm going to push to the kubecost folder. So the first one is just some translation strings. Okay. I have already prepared, and this is tied to that component. You can have your own localization for the extension bit. So I've prepared some strings for that. KCE SVG. So that's just the kubecost icon. I'll show you how to integrate. I have the kubecost component here. So I'm going to move. It's going to replace. Yes. Okay. Okay. Yeah. It throws an error because it needs a module that I haven't pushed yet. But I just want to show you a bit of the component really quickly. So what this is using a method called getKubeCostData that will be a module that I will push the file, which is just responsible for the communication with the kubecost service that is being exposed. It will get the data, parse the data in a format that is consumed by the Vue component, and essentially we are going to show two things. So this label value, it's kind of a table-like display of costs. We're broken down into different parts so that you'll see what is the information that kubecost gives us, and I'll show also a pie chart. So let's get the pie chart also in. So it is a component, okay? Let's get the module. So the module should be on the root folder, at least in my example. So no errors anymore, so just missing the import. I'm going to replace the package.json file also. Replace, yes. So what have we replaced here? So what's different here is the description. So the description is tied to the extension card. So when you go to the extension main view on Rancher UI, you'll see a card that appears, and I'll show you in a minute. And this is how you fill the description. I have a connection to the icon. Okay, the icon is connected to a remote asset. We still haven't pushed the code yet, but it will be there. So it is my GitHub repository and well, my organization, let's call it, and my GitHub repository that I've prepared for this. And what is it's missing the README. Yes, and the README is just another part of that cluster or that extension card information. Just a simple, information that you display when you click on the card. Okay. Yeah. So let's show the UI. We have live reload. So it appears to be magical, but yeah, just moving the files and it just does auto reload. So here we are showing you the cost for the namespace called KubeCost. You have the breakdown. This is what KubeCost provides us: breakdown per CPU, RAM, persistent volume, GPU, network, load balancer, etc., and the total. And I've just rendered a pie chart that I imported from some of the dependencies that I added. Now, if we go to the cards in the dashboard view of the cluster, you have the same, but this is for the whole cluster. Okay, so as you can see, the total is much bigger. So this cluster was created 7 days ago. That's when I added the KubeCost extension. So you don't see bigger numbers here because it's not running for a long time. But yeah, this is live information. So if we went to another namespace, let me see, cattle system, does it have information? Yes. So totals are different. So this is information of the cost that this namespace has on your total expenditure. So yes, so this is the example for KubeCost. In regards to the localization example, let me just collapse this, expand. So the localization is pretty simple, and I still haven't shown you the card, the extension cards. I'll show you in a bit. So I have some translation strings ready. Okay, I've tried to translate it to German. I'm sorry, it's Google Translate. I don't know German, so the path to the strings are what we have on our base translation file included in the Rancher UI. So just replace some of the strings so that you can see it running, and that's it. And how do we add the language pack? You just come to the index file and just do plugin, add locale. Okay. The first argument is tied to the name of the file. In this case, it's de.yaml, so the connection is de. And then this is the label that will be displayed on the language speaker, so German. Okay. I also wanted to show you something else while I'm at it. So the icon, right now, we cannot preview the final icon because it's connected to our to our GitHub repository, but there is a way that you can try out your icon in this developer mode. So you just do plugin metadata icon, and you require the asset that you have here. So it's kc.svg. Okay. Now let's jump back into the UI. I'm just going to show you the card real quickly, then I'm going to show you the language pack. So extensions that are being developed, okay, should appear on the install tab, and they appear as built-in, the label built-in. So now we can see the KubeCost icon, so the last bit that I added in terms of code. And if you click on it, we have the description updated. And we want to enhance this. We don't have the README part, so the README part will replace this banner, or should replace the banner in the final output. We just don't preview it right now, but it's there. And yeah, let me show you the language pack. So how do you change language in Rancher? Just go to Preferences, and here it is, the German language pack. Now, if you go to Home, you have Willkommen. Okay, so proves out that your language pack is working, and what is coming into 9 is, like Neil said, is the ability to load extensions before you are logged in. So this allows for having your language pack in your login or logout screen. It will enable further in the future to do branding on these pages and all of that. So if you refresh, it's persistent, it's added here, so all good to go. Okay, so I'm just going to log back in really quickly. Let me set the language back to English, and yeah, so we've got our extensions coded. We think, okay, kind of ready. So what we recommend after this is building your extension locally and testing your built assets to make sure that your build procedure is doing fine, there are no errors, it runs good, and yeah. So let me just clear this. So how do you do the build procedure locally? You run yarn build package and the package name. So this is very quick to run. So just run it for the localization example. It creates a dist package folder here, and it has the assets for the extension that you want. You need to run it one by one. Okay. So it is kubectl. Sorry. Yeah, done. And then we have another way of sharing these built assets locally. So you just do yarn serve packages, and what this does, this just spins up a local web server that serves the assets. Okay, so I'm going to copy the addresses. These are needed. Now, our local instance is no longer running. We've killed it. Okay, and I'm going to switch back to our remote instance. And how do you add your built assets to see if they are working fine? You go to the extensions tab, okay, and you do what it's called a developer load. Here's the option. So the developer load option only appears, okay, if you go to preferences and under advanced features you have selected enable extension developer features, okay? So don't be tripped by it. It won't be on by default. You need to go to preferences once and connect it, okay? So let's do the developer load, sorry. So we just paste the address that we have. I'm going to persist the extension. It will create a resource instance. I'm going to add already the second one, sorry. So the second one here, localization, just do both at once, then we'll do, developer load. Yeah, here it is, localization. I'm going to persist it also. So the card's already appeared. You need to reload so that the system can include it when it's loading. And we should have both extensions running. So let's just show them real quickly. Yes. So our SUSECon cluster has the kubectl extension both on the cluster dashboard and hopefully on the, yes, we have the tab. Here it is. So we are no longer on our local environment. We are directly connected to our remote instance. And we should have the language pack. Yes, German is available. So yeah, pretty simple. It's a procedure that we recommend. Please check if it builds fine. If it is fine, just try this, do the developer load. If it works good, then I'm sure that the publishing procedure will work fine, and you have confidence that your assets will be built fine. Okay. Now, I'm going to stop this. So this was just serving up the assets locally. I'm going to uninstall the extensions. So again, to make sure that we will get the final assets that we want once we do the publishing. So if we do a reload, there should be nothing more persisting. Nothing is there. Okay, we've made sure that everything is clear. Now I'm going here. I'm going to add all of the files. Okay, so you can exclude what you want from git ignore, and then just do git commit -m and suscon demo, and just do a push. Yes. So we have our GitHub workflows included. Okay. So now if we go to our GitHub repository that I have set up, if we hit refresh, we have the files that were just pushed. Okay. Now our GitHub workflows, and I'm going just to focus on the extension charts one, is running on a push to main or on a pull request that is merged to main directly. Okay. This will change from 2.9 onwards. Though the idea is to have the workflows triggered when you do a tagged release. So then you can control exactly when you want to do a release. So can you push your code, and you are sure that it won't be published until you go to releases, create a new release, and you just need to write the name of your extension, for example, kubecost dash and the version number. It must match what you have on the package JSON of the extension. But right now it is running because I've pushed. So if we go to the actions, it is doing both. This takes a couple of minutes, so just bear with me. What is needed in terms of setup for the GitHub repository? You just need to create a GitHub Pages branch, okay? Which I've done before, and on settings, you go to pages. This is all on our documentation. You need to make sure that the GitHub Pages is deploying from GitHub Actions, and that is it. So if you have these two things done, then the workflow will work out fine, and will publish your assets to a different branch, so you don't get the confusion of your source code and your built assets, and your repo is cleaner that way. So let's see if yes. So it's still, yes, it's the catalog. It's not yet the final one. So we should have our workflow completed. Okay. So now the idea is to go to the GitHub Pages branch, and you have the now. Here is the Helm chart already published. Okay. It has published both of the extensions. Okay. In this case, because they were both triggered, but you can have multiple extensions, and on tag release, you can release just the ones that you want and control everything. Okay. And now for the final bit, I'm going to copy the Git repository address. I'm going to, on remote instance, I'm going to the local cluster, apps, repositories, and here you see the repositories that are already added. So you have the partners charts, you have our official Rancher extensions and all. You just create a new repository. Let's call it suscon, and the target is of type git. Here's the URL, and do not forget that our branch is the GitHub Pages branch. So if we hit create, I usually do the refresh, maybe a bit paranoid on that, but it should refresh automatically. Now if you go to extensions, the card should appear on the available. Yes, and there you go. You have the kubecost one and the localization one. So just hit install. This is just your final test. So this is the assets provided by the workflow. This takes a bit more, so it's getting the assets remotely. Yep, Now let me jump back to the available. I'm going to install the other one and just do one reload for both. Reload. Yes, there you go. So nothing pops out. If you had an error, it should show something on the card. Here is the card information. So title, description, your README, okay? If you have multiple versions published, you should have here multiple buttons, so you can select the version that you want and all. See different description or details. And let's just go again to the cluster. Here we have the kubectl extension, done, connected. Project and namespaces, I'm sure that it is working also. And really quickly, preferences, language pack, German, yes. Now if you jump back, home page, here is the translation, so it's working. So I must have done something right yesterday. The demo gods were appeased. I could complete the live coding part, and yeah. So yeah, let me just go back to the slides. So these next slides are basically all of the stuff that I've been doing during the presentation, the live coding demo. So you will have the slides available. So I'm just going to go through them real quickly. So you have the information here if you want to try it out. It's also on our documentation. So how to create the skeleton application, generating extensions, building and loading locally, publishing, and how to add your repository and therefore make your extension available. And yeah, so next steps. So we recommend definitely to take a look at our documentation on extensions.rancher.io. We have a user Slack channel called #extensions where we try to reply as quickly as possible to the community. You have a couple of Rancher extension masterclasses on YouTube, some content that we did for Rancher a while ago. And if you want to try some different examples, we have the UI plugin examples repository that you can add to Rancher, and you can check the different extensions that are added. And yeah, I'll turn over to Neil.
Thank you, Alex. Awesome. It's always good when the demo works flawlessly. All right, thank you. I think we've only got a couple of minutes, with just a few slides to finish, and then we'll make sure there's time for questions. We'll finish on time. Slide. You know, looking ahead, where are we going? Why are we doing things like this? Right, we're trying to sort of grow that UI extensions ecosystem. Right, we want more people writing extensions. We ourselves obviously using it, right? So the new vector. This is an extension that we've published recently that we're building out to add more into Rancher, and if you were at the keynote, you would have heard Pete Smells talking about the next version is going to have surfacing of new vector information more within sort of the built-in Rancher views. At the moment, there's sort of a dashboard view, but it's going to start to spread its tentacles throughout Rancher. We have Elemental, which Alex is responsible. We have KubeWarden, which is our policy management, admissions engine, and we have Rancher Turtles. This is experimental at the moment, but this is going to be the next version of provisioning within Rancher, which is using upstream CAPI, so a lot more flexible. And you know, with the StackState acquisition, there will be a StackState extension coming out. I think what do we call it? Tech preview in 30 days, and then it will be in the August release, fully supported. So you know, we use it ourselves a lot. We also use it for Halfster, which I've not mentioned here. We have other people in SUSE, our friends in Edge, for example, are using the extensions mechanism, and we have lots of people throughout SUSE generally interested. But we obviously want other people to build extensions. We have some partners and friends, people we work closely with who are building extensions. I just wanted to give a shout out to Portworx. They're down in the technology showcase area, so if you've not seen them, go and take a look. They've built an extension. It's a good example of an extension which shows some deep integrations, some of them similar to what Alex showed. You know, it provides visibility of the Portworx environment, and you can carry out various management tasks around storage classes and managing their products. You know, they've got like a dashboard view, and they've also got integration, I think, with a tab here into the persistent volume view. So it's a great example of somebody else who's built an extension. We don't always get to hear about these, so it's great when we do. We're aware of I think 3, 4, 5 people that have just built extensions, and they've been able to do it without talking to us at all, right? And that's the whole idea. We put up the documentation, we have the extensions site, we have the extensions channel in the Slack. We're happy to answer questions, but we hope people are able to kind of take it and it's sort of easy enough to use without having to kind of reach out to us. You can just kind of get going. Real quick, I know we're up at time. Where are we going? I've not put too much detail on this, but kind of gives you a flavour. As we said, 2.9, the change there really is around allowing extensions to load before login. It's taken a while to get there, but that unlocks a few things we want to do in the future. The local or localization packs is one. We are in the midst of migrating to Vue 3. That's a big change for us, so that's part of the reason we've slowed down on a few other things. There will be some breaking changes. We'll work with everyone to help people understand what they need to do to adjust to that. And then, we're trying really to start to solidify the APIs we've got to make it easier than it is to build extensions. And then we're looking at other extension points that we can add, right? And we'll be very much informed by extension authors, right? Feel free to come to and say, hey, I'm trying to do this, can I do it? And we might go, yes, or we say, no, you can't. That seems like a reasonable thing, and we'll look how we can add the right points in to make that happen. And I said lower barriers to adoption. These kind of fit into these 4. If I have to abstract these up, I put them in these buckets, right? We're doing things like migrate to Vue 3. That's a big chunk. Drive adoption, improve APIs, all around just trying to improve the APIs, improve the way that you can build extensions currently. And then lastly, we're in the future, we want to look at how can we simplify this, right? You do have to be a Vue developer, or at least you need to understand Vue. You can do a lot through, I'll say copy and paste, right? But you can do a lot by learn by example, and a lot of people have, right? You don't have to be a Vue expert. A lot of people from Angular and React have been able to get plugged into this, but we realize we can maybe make it simpler. There's a lot going on with web components. We're looking at, okay, what else could we put in place to help people integrate more easily than having to use Vue? So that's in the future, but hopefully we'll get there. All right, well, thank you for coming. Appreciate the last day.